The thing that makes AI super powerful is information, and especially your information or your business's information, as then it can give you unique responses to you or to your business or to your specific use case, which is so much more useful than just the generic responses AI gives. However, none of the AI providers like OpenAI, Claude, Google, nobody allows you to have conversations with unlimited memory. You can't have conversations that last for 2, 3, 4, 12 months where AI remembers everything. So we're going to have to build one ourselves. But why is this useful? Well, for instance, you might want an agent that is like a marketing assistant. You can tell it about your business, your products, and your strategy, and you can use it to create campaign ideas, social media ideas, email ideas, and it will remember everything that you've told it previously. To do this, we are going to vectorize the messages and use RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. If you're unsure what that is, I've created a video about it before. You can check it out with the link that's in the description. We're going to be using n8n and Pinecone as our vector database in this case, both of which have free versions. So let's get into it. Okay, so before I show you how it works, let me show you what it does. So we are within n8n and we've got it working through the chat interface. You can, of course, embed this on your website, or you could have it as a chat bubble on the website, do whatever you want with it. However, we're going to keep it within n8n for now. So I'm going to ask it, give me an overview of my business. So what I've done here is I have given it a bunch of data already, telling it about a web development business that I used to run and pretending like I still run it now. Okay, we can see here that this business is called Web Solutions Limited, web development company, and our business model is that we call businesses that don't have a website, create one for them, book on a call, show them the website, and then sell them a website at £100 a month. So this is information that I've already uploaded to the vector database, but let's upload some new information and see how it interacts. Okay, so we're going to tell it, I have 126 clients on this service at the moment. Now it's going to take that and it's going to upsert it into our vector database so we can use it later, and it's going to remember this not just within the window buffer memory, which we'll talk about in a second, but actually within the vector database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reload this chat, so it's going to forget everything that we talked about before, and I'm going to ask it, knowing how many clients I have and the monthly price, what is my MRR? So how much money do I make each month? So it's going to go and it's going to see the price of what my product is at, and it's going to see how many clients I've got, and it's going to do very simple maths to tell us that we have 126 clients, which is correct as we just told it, and our service is 100 a month. So our monthly recurring revenue is £12,600. And there we go. This is just an example of it using the information that we told it about our business to come back and give us useful information. So let's have a look at how this actually works. So this is the main workflow. There are two workflows. One workflow, this one here, calls the other one. So what happens is when a chat is received, we are going to an AI agent. So it says, use the following information taken from a vector database, where appropriate, to respond to this message with the best answer. When there is an important bit of information shared that will be important to remember for future interactions, use the tool provided to save that information in the vector database. And I've got a few spelling and grammar errors in there, but AI will work it out. And then we pass in the message, so the chat message, and then also the content from the vector database. So actually our information is relevant to our business. So where are we getting this information from here? Well, what we are doing is we are using Pinecone. Pinecone is this tool here. This is a vector database. If you don't understand what a vector database is or what RAG is or how it works, I do have videos about that. I'll link them down below so you can go and check out what that is. But Pinecone is what we're using to store all of these bits of information. So as we told the AI agent, it's going to upsert bits of information into this vector database. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be able to query this vector database, and it's going to be able to give us relevant bits of information. So we're using Pinecone and the Pinecone tool. And for the embeddings, we are using OpenAI's large text embeddings. One important thing to note here is that you have to have the same amount of parameters in the model that you're using here as you have in Pinecone within the type of database that you set up. Otherwise, it won't work. So what's happening here is we are taking the message that we pass in saying, give us this information or give me information relevant to my business. It then creates a shortened version of that. And in fact, let's click into this. And it says here, so this is the query, relevant information about the user's web development business. So it's condensed down our message into a short query. It then vectorizes that and then goes and finds the nearest neighbor, which is how a vector database works. And if we click into here, we can see it's going to give us the four closest results. So here we can see where the query is relevant information about the user's web development business. It's giving us four results about the relevant information. And then AI is then going to use these results in order to give us our response. Now, you can play around with this limit here. If you increase this, then this is going to give you more results, which means more context, which means probably a better answer. However, because it is more context that you're passing into the AI model, it's going to be more expensive. So this is a really important part of how this works. Then over here, we've got the chat model here, which is essentially how this agent is working. It's not related to this. So we could have Claude working over here, or we could have Gemini working over here. These are independent of each other. So you can really have anything working here. We then have the window buffer memory, which essentially allows us to keep on having a conversation with this agent here. So it's not going to store information long term. As soon as we reload this chat within n8n, it's going to forget what we've said. However, that's going to allow us to have a little bit of back and forth here. And if we click into this, we can see exactly how many messages it's going to remember. So 5, let's increase this to 10. And similarly with the limit over here, the higher the number, the better results, but the higher cost it's going to be. Now, these two parts here are the two important parts. This is the bit that gets the result, and this part here is where we upsert the important information. So this is calling another tool that we've created within n8n. Let's have a look at that. This is the tool here, and this is being called when the AI agent here, which is being powered by OpenAI, decides that what we've passed into it has got some useful information, such as me saying we have 126 clients. AI sees that and goes, that's a bit of useful information. And then we're going to use this in order to turn that information and upsert it into our vector database. So let's have a look at the description of this tool. It says, call this tool when new important information about the business, marketing, sales, or operations is mentioned by the user. This will store it in a vector database so it can be used later. So we're just giving some information to the agent about what this is doing. So then if we have a look at this tool over here, we can see this is very simply taking information, which we're passing in as a parameter, and AI will automatically do that. If we go back over here, we can have a look that the information parameter, we are allowing AI to define this. So AI is passing in whatever it thinks it is important. And it takes that information, and what it will do then is it will store this within the vector database. It will upsert it into the vector database. So again, we are using our OpenAI embeddings model, the large one here, in order to create the embedding. So turn that text into that large number of, let's have a look, see if we can see what it looks like. Let's see if it's going to work. No, okay, so we don't have anything coming in. Okay, but it's going to turn it. In fact, let's go over here. It's going to turn this bit of information here into this large array of numbers, which is how a vector database works. So it then creates that large list of numbers. Actually, before it does that, what it does is it takes the text and splits it down into manageable chunks. And we can see here that each chunk is going to be 1,000 characters long. So if a bit of information is larger than 1,000 characters, it's going to chop it down into smaller bits. The reason for this is we don't want the vector database to return a huge bit of text, which is thousands of tokens long, because that's really going to eat up our tokens. It's best to have it smaller so that the results that we're getting back from our vector database are more relevant. You can overlap the chunks, meaning that some of the context is shared, which can sometimes give better results. If you want to have access to this automation and be able to download it and use it for yourself, then I'll leave a link to my free applied AI community below, and you can download it and use it yourself. And you'll find a load of other great things in there, AI news, support, and all of the other automations. And that's where you'll be able to go in and play around with this yourself and see the different sort of results that you get when you change some of these parameters. So this is splitting down the text, and then it creates an embedding, and then it loads that embedding into the vector database with the text along with it, so that when we go into the vector database, we can see that this is the text, and then we can see there's the embedding. So it's very long. This is just the first, 5 values, but this is going to be 3,000 values long. So we can see here the information being upserted into the vector database, and that's how it's upserted. And then back on the other one, this is how we are using it in order to pull it back and give a response to our chat agent. And that is how this works. And you can probably see that we can make this much more complicated, especially we can upload a lot more information about the business or your use case, and it's going to be a lot more useful. In this example, I've only uploaded a few bits of information, but we can still have a chat with it and see how it works again. So we can ask it, I've told it that we have sales calls and how we have sales calls and how we get those sales calls. And I can say to it, what can we do to increase conversion rates on our sales call? And it's going to go over and it's going to get the information from the vector database, and hopefully it's going to give us something relevant to the business. One thing that you can do here, again, if you want to download it and play around with it yourself, you can put in here, make sure that every response is relevant to our business. And if you're not doing it for a business, if you're doing personal and you want to upload personal data about you, about the different things you've got going on, then of course you can do that too. So here we can see that it is quite tailored to the business. So since you call businesses that do not have a website, you can talk about the benefits or the niche or the market industry, show them how having a website can address their unique challenges, demonstration of value, building rapport, highlighting the fact that there's no upfront payments with the website. So it's taking some of the features that we have of our product and some of how it's positioned and saying we should focus upon this because this might be something that's interesting and unique within the market, and then talking about follow-up. So we can see here that it's starting to be a little bit relevant to our business, and the more information that we give it about our business and the more prompting that we do within here, the more relevant it's going to be. And you can see that this gets really, really useful when we use this over a long time period rather than just a few messages. When you use this for months and months and months, then it is going to get super useful. And the great thing about vectorizing is that if you've spoken to it for 12 months and you've got a load of information that's gone into the vector database, you're not going to pay more in terms of tokens just because you've got more information uploaded to your vector database. That's the great difference between RAG rather than having it all as context like I have shown in other videos. So hopefully this has been useful to you. If you want to download this automation and use it yourself, then again, there is a link down below to my free applied AI community where you can download it, have a play around. Also, you can get any support there. If you have any questions, then you can ask those questions over there. If you've liked this video, then please do give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Bye-bye.